Hello, fellow makers, and welcome to learning about maker-centered learning, also known as MakerEd. And some people just call it makerspaces. So this is part one. There is a link to the slides, go.iu.edu/4 capital N as in Nancy 13, and a link to our website, which is a blog and then a bunch of pages with a bunch of different information for LRZ, and those are all capitals. I am Paul Shercliffe. I've been in education for over 25 years, mostly physics and math, but doing a lot of maker and now trying to help people with maker ideas. Our social media is at Uplands Maker, and there is my email. So you might want to pause now to copy all those down. Part one is going to be a description of maker-centered learning, MakerEd. Why is it different from other ideas and other ways? First of all, maker-centered learning is not a new idea. It is really just a mashup of all those good things that Dewey, Montessori, Vygotsky, Piaget, and Papert were telling us. All those good things we learned about when we were in college about educational pedagogies. It's not something new to add to your plate, not one more thing to your plate. It's just a different way of doing things than most people um, are doing. It's a shift in pedagogy, truly. And I think it's the best way that we learn. Now, at the core is an artifact, designing, creating something that's related to our content somehow. And then around that artifact, we have discussions, conversations, lots of questions. The discussions can be a teacher with a student, teacher with a group of students, can be students with each other. The questions can be, same kind of thing. Um, the discussions and questions can be different with each student, and they should be because, individualized learning kind of thing. Everyone comes from a different point of view, different perspective. So that's the core. We're designing, creating something, and we're having these discussions. And in those discussions and questions, the teacher kind of weaves in the content, the topics that we want to talk about. So it kind of blends it in there. And those conversations are core because those conversations are where the learning happens, and also the assessment. Listening to what the students say is the assessment. It's formative and it's summative. We know what they're understanding by the questions they ask and by the answers that they give, and the things they share to each other. So those conversations are massively important. We're looking at process over product when we're doing making, we're designing, creating it. It's the process, and through that process is where these conversations happen. And we might not have time to finish every product. That's one of the hard parts of maker-centered learning is getting everybody what they need to be successful, and sometimes we just don't have enough time for everyone to finish making their product in the class in that period. Not saying they can't take it home and finish it, right? Um, but we emphasize process over just we made something and got it made, kind of thing. Think of it as making to learn while learning to make. And there's a lot of skills that happen in that making, and a lot of those skills are very important to life in general. Maker centered learning activates multiple parts of the brain at the same time and bridges them to work together. It is naturally transdisciplinary. It mashes up there, math and science and history, because history and English, because that's the conversations that you're allowing everything to kind of come together, and those connected conversations with where the disciplines being connected. That's why the learning really sticks, because of those connections that we allow that naturally occur and we allow to naturally happen in the class. It's when we separate things and create those silos that it's tough for the learning to stick. But here, it makes so much more sense when we get the connections and get to talk about them and deal with them and see them for everything it is. We were making puzzle cubes, which are like 1 inch cubes that you get 27 of them. You put them in certain shapes, so you get like five, I think, shapes. And when you put them together, they make a 3 by 3 by 3 cube. So we're making these, and kids are, coloring them with marker and painting them with acrylics, and somebody was painting them with fingernail polish. And this one kid came up to me and said, "Can I hydro dip these?" I was like, "I have no idea what that is. Please tell me." So they told me what it was. I said, "Yeah, sure. As long find what look in the classroom, find what you need." And they found that that white bowl, which was perfectly clean before they used it, but that's okay. Grabbed some fingernail polish out of their purse, grabbed borrowed some from a friend, and did this hydro dipping. And then other kids saw that, and they got to teach other kids how to hydro dip. I mean, people know stuff that you don't know. Everyone knows something you don't know. I just had to get out of their way and let them do it. And they the joy they felt in teaching somebody else how to do something and share something that they knew. Maker-centered learning allows that. Everyone is a teacher and everyone is a learner in a maker-centered learning environment. One of the great things about maker-centered learning, there are so many ways of making. They're endless. That everybody should be able to find a way that they can do, a way that they like, find their niche. I mean, there's painting, there's drawing, there's pottery, there's music, there's video, there's coding, there's woodworking, there's 3D printing, there's laser cutting, there's sewing, there's crocheting, there's cooking, I mean, it's just endless. Well, so everyone should be able to find something, and that's nice to be able to give them their choice on ways to do stuff. Now, that's also the hard part about maker-centered learning is there are so many ways. You don't have to be an expert in all of them. Just get that. You don't have to know how to do every one of them. You have to be open to the possibility of being a learner and modeling how to learn things with the kids. If they want to try something, they might actually even know how to do something really well that you don't. So learn from them. You don't have to be the expert. You do have to give up a little bit of control to the students to take over, and that's the learning just flourishes when they get to control it. Now, we were working on a project one time, and I was talking with one student. Other students are nearby, and they were telling me exactly where they were, what they had done, what they had learned, and what they needed to do next. And this other student nearby, just kind of half listening, half doing their stuff, piped up and said, "I know how to do that. I can help them." And it was awesome. Just the fact that they wanted to help the other student do the next step. But this is from a student who really didn't work with others. It was kind of off on their own kind of thing. Had trouble getting things done. And man, now they want to go help someone get things done. So that was excellent. People talk about agency and empowerment. It happens in maker-centered learning. Now, maker-centered learning is naturally student-centered because the conversations come from their perspective, come from their point of view. We give them choices in kind of what they want to make, create, or design. We even give them choices on tools and materials. So they get to explore from their realm, not just a teacher's point of view. And there's also many ways to get to the learning. So it's it helps to bring out the individual ideas that students have, gives them an avenue to get those things out there. There's lots of ways to get to the same endpoint. We just kind of have to be the bumpers and bumper bullying and keep them going down, towards the right path. Let them get off path a little bit because you never know what we might find if we get over there. But keep them going forward. They don't all have to be on the same path. That's not what we want. We want to give them voice and choice and let them get to where we need to get to. It's kind of like learning is a super highway, and maker-centered learning gives every kid their own on-ramp to the super highway. We were doing mousetrap cars for physics. Have to study Newton's laws in physics, so we make stuff that moves. and okay, what can we measure? What can we calculate? What can we talk about? I don't give them a lab sheet that says here do 5 measurements of this and 6 measurements of this and take these 2 numbers and divide them. No, we just hey, let's make something that moves. Okay, now what can we analyze? Kind of thing. Yeah, it's a little free flow for some people, but you'll get there. Now, what was neat is that that kid that wants to be the engineer, they want to be the engineer. They said, well, it's not going far enough. I got to make it go farther. I got to make it go the farthest that everybody else will go. Or the other engineer, I got to make it go faster than everybody else. You got to prove it goes faster. You got to do measurements and calculations, and so we get to have conversations along those lines. The kid that wants to be the artist, the one that's drawing their notebooks, someone that they're beautiful, their work. They want to look good. They want to have good form, and you get to have great conversations about like ergonomics, design, color scheme, but you still get to have the conversations about Newton's laws and ideas about motion. Because it all blends in there. Because man, you start talking about it's got to look good. Well, there's these wind tunnel things that companies use to make sure the wind flow is okay. So you get to talk about things, and it reduces friction, and again those words start coming in. So they come from it from their point of view. They get to get out what they want. I want to go fastest, farthest, or be the best looking. But you also get to talk about the content we want to talk about. That's great about it because it opens up from their point of view. Maker-centered learning fosters all those C's of education that everybody talks about. And my problem is that people talk about 4 C's of education. And I think they leave out the most important one, the one that drives them all, and that's curiosity. There's curiosity drives everything. That allows us that makes us get into the mode and do the next steps of creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, communication. People like to add character and citizenship, and I think those are really important too. But it starts with curiosity. If they're not curious, they're not going to be creative. If they're not curious, they're not going to collaborate. But Maker-centered learning does that. Now, creativity is really important. People talk a lot about creativity, and there's books about it, and blogs and podcasts and all sorts of things. And it is. It's not the top. Again, curiosity to me is the top because it makes all this happen. But Ken Robinson put up some ideas of creativity, and Sylvia Duckworth made this beautiful. I can't remember what this thing. Art sketch notes about creativity. It allows you to express yourself, promotes thinking and problem solving, allows you to enter your fun zone, right? Sense of purpose. You get to link with people that have the same passion as you. That's a great thing to find. Other people your whatever you want, your tribe, your posse, your whatever. Accomplishment and pride comes with it. So creativity, giving them avenues for creativity. I had a teacher just did a project with their students, first one they had done. I said, well, how'd it go? What do you think? Oh my gosh, they were so creative. I'm like, yeah. You give them an avenue to be creative and express themselves, and they will. And you learn so much from it. You get to have conversations about the person. Making is also good for us. It's SEO. Everyone wants to talk about SEO in school and do all these programs like Maker. Put it in a workshop. Put it in a wood shop. Maker just is a nice therapy for us. It really is. Dan Ryder shared there was a student in his school that had made this chessboard, and he said that she couldn't stop, walking down the hall showing people, what she had accomplished. Hey, look what I made. Look what I did. It's a beautiful piece of work. So it's just good for us. Maker's also a mindset. It's not just doing stuff. It's creating this mindset which allows us to do stuff and want to do stuff. And it's a mindset of I can do stuff. I can have an impact on the world. I can make things for my environment. I can 3D print little S hooks for hangers. I can, make a pencil holder for all my stuff on my desk at home. I can I can impact the world with things that I design and create. It also is a mindset where failure is not a problem Because when we first make stuff, it's not going to work, right? So we learned that failure is okay in that. I just have to try again and redesign and iterate and go through the process again of making it work and test and trial and fix. And so it's that mindset on how it's not just a one shot deal. That's really important to help kids get. Failure is not fatal. Important thing to get across, to let kids get. So that building that mindset really important. John Spencer has a couple books, talks about maker and creativity and these things, and it says, here's what happens when we help kids develop that maker mindset. Such great things that we want them. They think divergently. They make connections. They're ready for that creative economy. It's not just a factory economy anymore. Explorers, rebels, hackers, thinkers, empathetic. They care about each other. The kids already care about each other. We just kind of need to give them the opportunity to do it. They like helping each other. They like helping people. Getting maker stuff to be like help your community, help your school, help your neighborhood, help you. They actually like that when they get the opportunity to do it. At least the ones I found. Now, we're all makers. We were born makers. Making is how we figure out the world. We do mud pies, we do stick forts, we build with blocks, we turn sticks into all sorts of different things, and pebbles and rocks, and we're all makers. But for some reason, we stop, and then we can't figure out why we don't understand the world anymore. That was how we did understand the world. So we're all some kind of makers. Now, again, what makes maker-centered learning different? Well, because the making is the avenue to the learning. It's centered. It's maker-centered. It's the maker at the center. It's the making at the center. It's not just the thing we make and build at the end. It's not just, we'll do the project at the end of the worksheets. It's not. It's not worksheets. So it's making the whole time, designing, creating to learn. So, what kind of maker are you? What things do you make? I don't know, half dozen years ago I started. I'd always built a couple, some stuff out of wood at home. You kind of have to do that when you have a home. Built some bookshelf kind of thing, or built some shelves in the garage. But I actually got more into woodworking, half a dozen years ago. Kind of put a shop in my garage and make more stuff. Planters for the yard, planters for other people's yards. Cutting boards, little wooden toys, it's just a bunch of things. I love coding in robotics and fiddling with robotic kits and robotic parts. So what kind of maker are you? Because it's easiest if you can take something you already do and love and like, and then try to use it. So how can you incorporate that into the learning experiences that you create for the students? Maybe it's sewing or knitting or felting. But I asked this of a bunch of teachers, and here's what they came up with. And I think this might be a neat first teacher PD day kind of thing. Hey, what kind of maker are you? What do you like making? And find out who else in your district or building like doing the same things you like doing. Again, find your people. Watercolor painting. Someone likes setting up aquariums. Well, gee, aquariums is a massive science thing, right? That would be a society thing with creating aquariums for people to visit and questions about, what kind of animals do we want to put in aquariums, and poetry, music, cricket projects. I'm just bouncing around here. Stickers, bread art, kirigami, not just origami, kirigami. So there's all sorts of ways. Landscaping. I do landscaping too, yeah. So maybe that's a neat thing to do at school. So here's a core question to get. What can we design and create that allows us to have the conversations we want to have about the content? That's where you got to be after. What can we design and create that allows us to have the conversations we want to have? And we can weave the content in. Now, that can be two different things for two different teachers studying the same thing. I mean, one, if you like, say, history. If you're studying a time period, or you're studying a time period, well, one teacher could make the jewelry of that time period. And so while they're making jewelry, they're talking about the time period. Another could be doing the food of the time of the society and be having conversations about the time while they're doing the food. I mean, so it doesn't have to, it's not one thing, it's a multitude of things. It's just the avenue to allow you to have the conversations about the content. So if you're not sure why Maker yet, I haven't done a very good job, obviously. But the World Economic Forum says here are the top 10 job skills of 2025. Maker centered learning fosters all of those skills. So if we want our kids to be ready for the workforce, I think maker centered learning is kind of important. Thanks for paying attention through part one, for going along on this journey. Again, there is a link to the slides. There is a link to my website, which is a blog and a whole bunch of pages for the Uplands Maker Mobile. Our Twitter and Facebook is at Uplands Maker, and the email for the Maker Mobile, which gets to me and the boss, is makervan@indiana.edu. Come back for part two and part three.